Welcome back to Unboxing Logistics. I'm your host, Lori Boyer of EasyPost, and today I am so thrilled to have our guest, Julian Van Erlach from FabFitFun. He has done some amazing things. This company has scaled and grown really dramatically in the last few years. Julian's been there overseeing it and really guiding and leading it every step of the way. And so I am so excited to be talking with him today about scaling your logistics and how to do that in a way that keeps those customers happy and create an incredible customer experience. So, Julian, can you introduce yourself to our guests?
Lori, Julian Van Erlach. Yes, I've got the privilege of being SVP at FabFitFun. And the he is like a big we because there is no he without the whole we that is all around me that makes it all possible. So it is a phenomenal team. Those of you who are listening may want to look at a Forbes article about FabFitFun, and our founders have talked about the membership base. And to give you a little context, we bill our members 4 times a year, and our billings happen at once. And when you look at the size of the membership count, you can deduce how many orders we're shipping. And as it happens, Lori, right now, this very moment, we are hitting your systems, your cartonization systems, and your rate shopping systems with hundreds of thousands of orders right now. And that's happening per hour.
Wow, that's incredible.
Very exciting time.
One really crazy thing to me about your specific company and industry is the fact that you have these big 4. It's like you get 4 peak seasons a year.
4 Christmases.
I mean, that's insane.
Every kid's dream.
Crazy. So you are constantly scaling up and down and up and down. And so we're going to walk into all of the ins and outs of how to make that happen so smoothly. Julian has some really great tips for you. So I'm excited. But before we get started, I just want to have a little get to know you, Julian. So let's say this season I've been asking everyone on who comes on the show what their favorite comfort food is. If you're going to have one food that you just want on a day that you need a little something, what would that be, Julian?
There's not a doubt. It's that silver oak Cabernet that I will reach for in a few hours.
Oh, in a few hours. Yay,
Yes.
It's coming. You can feel it. Oh, that sounds amazing. So, okay, fantastic. Now, before we dive into all the questions that I have and that I've compiled actually from some of our community around scaling and how you deal with that logistics, I always ask people to come with a few key takeaways right from the beginning so that if somebody had to leave or if they wanted to know what is it that you want them to leave today knowing, what would that be? So Julian, around this topic of scaling and enhancing the customer experience, what are your key takeaways you would want our audience to remember?
First, and the guiding thing that we look for is what is it that we're going to solve for or scale for? So being very, very tight with the merchandising and marketing teams and understanding what their plans are so that we can be ahead of their plans operationally. So that is number one. What is leading the company that the supply chain has to be ready for? The second is we are looking for choke points, cost centers, and areas of operation that take a lot of time that could throw us out of sync. So we have identified at FabFitFun that the biggest cost centers are number one, shipping, and there are factors that drive it that we'll dive into. Number 2 is the scaling of labor. So having to go 8-to-1 temps during our peak seasons and how we make those hires efficiently and bring back trained temps and make that process smooth and productive. And then the systems. And the systems have a lot to do with what you and I are going to talk about, is having the right systems to solve for minimizing the physical size of the orders that we ship, which minimizes our freight rates. And that gets back to identifying where your costs are. Logistics, size is a major factor. And the choke points. And, we have solved for where our choke points happen that cause us to have overtime, for example, and eliminating that overtime. So be ahead of the merchandising and marketing initiatives, identify choke points, solve for the high cost areas, and you're going to be very happy.
Okay. That's amazing. Those choke points especially have got me really interested. I know that those are a huge challenge for a lot of people, but let's back up a little bit. Tell me a little bit about FabFitFun and kind of where it started to grow. What were kind of some of the biggest logistical challenges you experienced as the company grew rapidly?
3 years ago, we were in a massive growth phase, which actually got accelerated by COVID, with people being at home, wanting to have the experience that FabFitFun offers. At the same time, our merchandising and marketing initiatives were to enable what we call full customization of the box. Prior, people would receive a pre-curated box or several pre-curated versions. So picking those was pretty simple because it was the same combination of SKUs going into an order. We suddenly went to full customization where people could choose what they wanted to. Now, we knew that was happening, so we had to redesign our systems to be able to effectively pick infinitely, I wouldn't say infinitely, but millions of variations from what our customers were sending us in terms of order types. So we faced at the same time massively growing order volume, full customization going from no customization, a much larger box. So we more than doubled the physical size of our box. And then COVID was coming, where we knew we were going to have issues with labor and issues with carriers, perhaps not being able to take all of our volume. So those were some of the significant challenges that we faced. What are we going to do with the size of the box getting much larger, full customization, volume increases, labor issues, and of course, the COVID pandemic itself?
So what did you do? So let's talk then a little bit. First of all, was the box size getting bigger because you were shipping more items in the box? Just out of curiosity.
We bought bigger items.
Okay.
And back to being tight with and coordinated with merchandising and marketing, we were not advised that the marketing team and merchandising teams would buy bigger items. We actually physically saw it by analyzing the purchase orders, which are made 7 months in advance. So we analyzed the average SKU dimensions and cubic size and very quickly realized as POs were being placed, without being told, but because we're looking at this data, that things were going to be much bigger, which meant that that would affect warehouse space.
Okay. So as your boxes grew, then what did you do to kind of manage that efficiently in a way that it's not going to blow the costs out of the water? How did you manage that growing size?
So we had to first have early warning measures besides the conversations we normally have with our merchandising teams. The early warning measures are analyze purchase orders because what is coming so that we can be ready for it. Then thinking through about what is it that could affect the physical size of the orders that we were shipping. Obviously, cartonization logic, magic IQ. So that's one thing. Another is we were taking all of our e-commerce purchases that members made along with the box and basically putting the box inside a larger box and then picking the e-com items into that larger box. So now every order that went out that was a box plus e-com items was overboxed, which made it bigger, heavier, cost of the box. So we devised what we call pick-to-kit technology, where we would create a variety of kit box sizes that would fit both the kit items that members bought, the actual box themselves, plus e-com items. So we went from everything being overboxed with e-com to now only 15% of the orders that had e-com items had to be overboxed. So 85% of the time, we're able to fit them in the right kit box. Huge cost savings, many, many millions of dollars per quarter. And you couple that with MagicLogic, which is the cartonization software that you have and that we use, which plays Tetris with all those items. And when I say all those items, our order is not 2 or 3 units like most e-com orders. It's more like 14 or 15 units. So the Tetris combinations that have to be played is very large. And it's a two-step process, the box and e-com orders, which meant that we customized your solution or you customized it for us to be able to solve for it.
That's incredible. So what else did you do during this kind of scaling process? We kind of talked about the boxes, the challenges you had with carton size and getting Tetris. With the other challenges you were facing, what were things you did to kind of make sure logistics went smoothly?
We anticipated that since at the time we were a single carrier company, FedEx, that the carriers would look for margin and we were a very low cost account. So very good rates, which meant that the margins were better elsewhere. And FedEx is a great company, but we expected that we would be limited and that our rates would go up. So we initiated a carrier diversification program. So we went and basically became direct with many last mile carriers, some national, some regional. So now we have a fully diversified logistics network, which we zone skip, meaning we have trucks that we floor load, we scan the truck, and we induct into carrier nodes all over the country, which gives us the lowest possible rates. So carrier diversification is a critical factor. Knowing that the pandemic was coming, we wanted to be sure that we had a very safe work environment, that we could attract labor, and we're competing in the Inland Empire of California with every major 3PL, Amazon, Walmart, everybody is here. So safety, we knew was going to be a big issue. So we thought, as we saw what was happening with COVID and we saw China buy masks, we bought hundreds of thousands of masks before anybody else had them in the area. We put bipolar air ionization into the whole warehouse. We spent $2 million, which is electrons that are in the air that basically neutralize bacteria and viruses in midair. Positive and negative electrons are shot by the bipolar technology. That's throughout the whole warehouse. We negative air pressure instituted toilet seat covers, single serving food, air conditioning systems that empty room air every 8 minutes and put it through HEPA filters and ultraviolet lamps. So everything scientifically proven to make it a safer workplace. And guess what? We had no problems getting temp labor against all the competition during COVID because of that.
That is incredible. The way that you were so proactive with that. I mean, that blows my mind. So many companies were playing catch up. I mean, what a differentiator for you. I love how you mentioned three of my favorite things. Like you focused on processes, you focused on people, and you also focused on technology. So you didn't, limit yourself to just one area and get stuck. How did you, I guess, identify? I'm assuming these were kind of those choke points you mentioned earlier. How do you identify, or do you have tips for people on identifying maybe where they should be looking for areas to improve?
Part of it is your inherent processes. Where do things tend to have less capacity? And when you are going to have a 3 or 4 or 5 sigma event like we do 4 times a year, look at those lower capacity points and be sure that you have ways to address the throughput so that it does not become a choke point. We have many potential choke points. Among them are our physical space in the warehouse. We have a medium-sized facility, 600,000 square feet. And based on our order volume, which you can deduce is hundreds of thousands of orders per day, based on our order volume, we will choke the warehouse physically if orders do not flow very smoothly, sort of like blood through your blood vessels, including trucks coming and trucks going and being loaded fast enough and having enough loaders so that the docks don't choke the rest of the warehouse from dock on through all the other processes. So much of it is about identifying where you need to augment capacity to make sure that the flow remains smooth. The other, as you pointed out, is what else can affect your output like people. So if there's going to be a crisis like COVID, you better be safe so that the supply of labor, we're afraid of a situation like that, that they feel comfortable coming to us at FabFitFun, that we don't get interrupted, even though we have great technology, great process, but oops, no labor. Can't have that
Nothing
happen.
works without people.
That's right.
Absolutely.
So to your point, you want to look around at all of the ingredients that make it work. And it's people, place, process, and then, of course, we look at the technologies that have an ROI or increase safety so that we can have the labor.
So what technology have you used then? We get that question a lot. What are the types of technology that you feel are critical to make sure that as you're scaling, that you're, ready to go and to hit anything that comes your way?
In our case, and it's probably generalizable, there are 4. One is the physical technology for picking. So how we pick efficiently. And we have a pick-to-light series of assets where the orders move to pickers, not pickers to orders. So that is one. Efficiency of the actual process involved of what you're doing. In our case, it's picking.
Okay, really cool. I want to say that again. So you have a way that the orders come to the pickers.
Correct.
That is so cool. So You'll have to reach out to Julian if you want to hear about that, but that's neat.
Yeah, it gives us unparalleled picking efficiencies for kitting and for e-com.
Picking can slow things down so much. So yeah, anyway, I just love that. So second.
Second of the four is a WMS, a warehouse management system, that gives you the capability to waive orders, sequence orders, have visibility to order status, and so forth. The other two critical pieces are cartonization, so that we don't waste space when we ship. And our logistics cost is bigger than our fulfillment costs by a wide margin. That's true for many companies. So minimizing that is critical, and that's where MagicLogic comes in partnership with us. The fourth, I should say, is minimizing the actual carrier costs, the freight carrier costs, through rate shopping. And that is what we use your rate shopping platform for, where every order is bid across many different carriers. So they know the mode of service, location, dimensions, weight of the order, there are contracts involved, and the carriers come back with a bid. And what we've done very uniquely in partnership with you is, since we zone skip the carriers, we have to add in the cost of that zone skip, which is the truck that we engage to go to FedEx Indianapolis or to OnTrack in New Jersey and so on. So not only are we getting the carrier's response for price for that order, we're adding in our own cost, and then we determine the weight. And each of the carriers is responding by node, not just the carrier as a whole, but every individual node of every carrier is responding with a bid for that order. So it's a very intricate system, but it drives millions in savings per quarter.
Really cool. So one of the questions I have is kind of, it sounds like they're just really cool things you've done in terms of efficiency, making sure that you're stopping the choke points, all of that's going out well. I guess, how do customer expectations kind of play into this whole thing? I guess first, what is your opinion on the current kind of state of customer expectations when it comes to the actual process of receiving their package? And how has that changed?
Thankfully, I don't rely on myself for the customer experience because, men don't shop and so on. I'm one of those. So I have to rely on my wife and our customers and our customer service team, which gets feedback. And there are a number of factors in that experience. And it isn't me finding this out. It's, learning this from other people. Of course, you want a reasonable delivery time with expectations set about that delivery. If you have a non-commodity product, like we believe the kit box is, members and customers are willing to wait a little bit longer because we're shipping across the whole country and world from one warehouse, not multiple warehouses across the country. So there's a little bit of extra wait time if it's going to the east, but it's a unique product. So understand your SLA to the member. When do they want it? What's the expectation? They also want to see that there's efficient packaging, that you're not wasting the material and harming Mother Earth from all those things. They want to see the package in good shape.
And I think the bigger that your company is, the more people expect that you're not having a giant box with a small, I recently received something from a very large company, I won't name, but it was a huge box with this tiny thing. And I was just a little floored, thinking, what a waste. It's so bad for the environment. It was so expensive. And so, yeah. Just, the larger you get, to me, the more important it is that you make sure that that's fitting.
And the other wrinkle that we face is, because we zone skip, our customers don't see a carrier scan for a number of days because we're loading a truck, we're scanning the truck, and that truck is taking a couple of days to go to the east.
Yes.
And members are going to say, well, where is my order? You said you shipped it, but trust us, we shipped it. We really did ship it. So what we're doing now is we're partnering with Aftership and ForKites to provide members live GPS tracking of their orders as they're coming from Chino to whichever carrier node, and before they see the carrier induct, so that they know it's moving.
I love that. So for you out there who are having some of those little bit longer shipping time, it is a big deal when you start to feel like there's a dark hole for a little bit of time. So simply having, visibility and transparency and all of that, they're going to be fine as long as they know where it is and they don't think it's lost in some tunnel somewhere. So smart, Julian. Love that.
Those are the main points. I think reasonable package size so that you're not wasteful. The package is in good shape. It arrives according to expectations. and that it's using some sustainable materials, which we use recycled materials all the time. And to your point, that there's constant communication and visibility. Where is it really? So I think solving for those things goes a long way to the customer experience. And of course, the order has to be right. So what you say you shipped should be there and it shouldn't be damaged.
Yes, absolutely. I also love how you pointed out the fact that for certain types of commodities, for certain types of goods, the expectations for the shipping time is not necessarily 2 days. It's not necessarily the same day. Sometimes people get, caught in the trap of thinking that I have to have these goods sent immediately because that's the new standard. Everything's 2 days, free shipping. That's not necessarily the case. So depending on the type of things you're shipping, it may be completely different. So I love that you pointed that out and wanted to make sure that I pointed out that you
Yes.
had said that.
And it
That's
helps keep prices down to our members. Being able to ship that way saves a lot of money that we then pass along by minimizing price increases.
That is awesome. And that's something that if you are a marketing person, make sure you share these things you're doing. Just say that, hey, by having these longer times, we are able to pass on these prices. That as we have this shipping, that we're using recyclable materials, let them know that you're doing that. All of those kind of things really help raise your brand in their eyes. So those are all fantastic things. How do you balance if being financially efficient and cutting costs and keeping things as affordable as you can while also kind of maintaining or maybe even improving that customer experience? How do you find that balance?
Fortunately for us, it hasn't been an issue of trade-off of one goal versus another. We've been able to simultaneously achieve them. So for example, let's take zone skipping, for example, which is a huge savings, but it saves cost, but it's also quicker because I don't have to wait for a carrier to pick it up, induct it into the network locally, sort it, and then ship it to one of their nodes across the country. We do it directly from Chino. So it actually saves a day or day and a half of transit time versus a carrier getting it right away, giving a member a scan, but it will take longer than what we do. So we are both quicker to the customer and cheaper to the customer by zone skipping it all ourselves. And the same is true with the various other things that we do, such as recycled materials in the packaging and cube logic, which allows us to ship a smaller order. So these are all simultaneous wins, and we have not had to face a situation where objectives are at odds with each other, either financially or practically. So we've been able to solve those simultaneously.
I think, you kind of gave me an aha moment that sometimes I guess we think that by creating a better experience that it's going to just come with more costs, but it doesn't necessarily. None of those things you did actually raise the cost. Being more sustainable doesn't mean that you're actually necessarily raising costs. So that's such a great point. Love that. In your industry, it seems like that experience is going to be a big, giant deal. People are wanting to get your package because it's just an experience in and of itself. How do you, do you have any tips on gathering feedback or making sure making sure that experience is where it should be?
We extensively survey members. So our customer service team is in touch with members. We're looking at comments, Reddit streams. We have
Reddit streams. Oh,
yes,
nice.
yes. So there are forums that members are discussing various topics, and we're learning from that. Like, are there bad carrier experiences that we can address? Our kit box is experience-based, so we don't just throw product into our kit box. It has to be arranged a certain way so that its items are face up, large items are on the base first, and then smaller items on top. We embed quality into those processes. So our quality teams are physically inside the picking assets that we have. They have wireless pads, and they're looking for errors, and they're logging electronically. Is it an item that's mislotted? Is a picker making mistakes? Is a set of items damaged by someone's knife where they're cutting open a carton and there's a scratch on it? And we identify that in real time, and we are able to correct it in real time. And the end result of that is that the member-reported poor experience rate is around 0.2%. Now, not perfect, but also not bad. So when we look at what members say about my product is wrong, missing, or damaged, it's 0.2 or less. And a part of that is because quality is embedded in each and every process.
That is amazing. Okay, I'm going to say it in. Quality is embedded into each and every process. I mean, if we could all have that as sort of a theme on our wall, every process, no matter how mundane it may seem, if you make quality your goal, I mean, you're going to be so successful. That's amazing. It just seems like you've been really, a bulldog about making sure that quality is there. Anything else that you can think of, tips? So you said mention constant surveys, Reddit groups, love that. There are so many out on social media talking about exactly your industry. Absolutely get involved, find out what people are saying. Customer support, I assume you have some extensive customer support.
We do. So the other tip, Lori, is I would say this. On the back end, when something does happen and a customer has a bad experience, what you typically do is you offer them, I'll reship you the product that was damaged or missing. But another option is to give them a credit for shopping. So now the question is, you balance the two. If you reship an item, it's going to cost the company more because you have to pick it, package it, and the freight cost. However, the credit can be much larger than the cost of the item because the company has a profit margin. So let's just arbitrarily say that your profit margin is 50%. That means you can offer a credit, a shopping credit, whose retail value is well above the cost of the item that the member found to be damaged or missing. So we find that members will very often choose a larger shopping credit than the value of the product. And therefore, they're happier and we save money.
I was going to say, it creates a great experience. And again, you're not having the trade-off. I mean, I think that's such a lesson here today is that you don't have to trade off always with cost savings and a great customer experience.
And it's their choice.
Yeah. And I love that point too. Giving customers choice is so huge in them feeling like they're having a great experience. So love that you pointed that out. As you're moving into the future, what are you kind of seeing? What are your future plans? Do we get to hear a little bit about growing? What are you moving into?
We as a company are, and I'm very glad for this, we've already entered the 3PL space. So FabFitFun is now serving some pretty well-known brands in fulfillment and logistics.
Okay, I just have to say that's amazing because you obviously have those processes down.
Yes.
So slick.
For example, everybody knows Hexclad, the Gordon Ramsay promoted company that has awesome cookware. We love them. They're a customer of ours, and we have the western half of the US for them. Rachel Zoe has a luxury box called Curator. They're our customer. We do some work with Dr. Squatch, the soap company, so the place smells really good thanks to them. And we're hoping to add some more brands into our network because we're extremely cost effective in both fulfillment and logistics. And we just love to spread what we do well to the benefit of other brands. Other areas are we will be getting into manufacturing, I believe. So we will be looking at some categories where we can make products that are better and better for the consumer than what's on the market. So we're analyzing a number of areas where we can begin manufacturing product. Some of them might be consumables. We'll see, but that's also a very exciting area. And then we have a couple portfolios of patents that we're looking to license. And, one of them has to do with logistics, where we think that the platforms like FedEx, Aftership, Narvar that deal with orders should start serving digital ads in those platforms. Because theoretically, FedEx would know more about our members because they're delivering orders from hundreds of companies to the same person. So if you mine that data, you should know more about that person than one company knows. And then you can serve very targeted ads in the tracking pages and so on. So we're the only company that has patents in that area. We're looking to license them. So we're working on the whole space.
So ton of things happening. And so everybody, I guess, keep an eye out on their website, follow them on LinkedIn, social media, and make sure you're keeping an eye on that. How do you see technology playing into supply chain strategy for you at FabFitFun, but also just in general as we move into the future?
All of us are looking at as much automation as we can implement for quality, for throughput, efficiency, so that the company can reinvest in serving the customer with product innovation and so on. So robotics and warehouse control systems, which are managing multiple technologies and the flow among the technologies, is an area that is going to be growing, and we're going to be increasingly investing in it so that humans are doing less of that rote work of managing the flow between different kinds of operating assets within a warehouse, and that automation is doing it, whether we call it AI, which is, I think, evolutionary, and it's gotten to a great point, or something akin to it, but we will be integrating robotics and various other technologies along with the control systems that manage the work assignments and flows between and across those assets. I think is going to be a big area. And I also think that last mile logistics innovation is going to continue apace as companies that are doing the last mile continue to get more and more efficient in the way that they sort and deliver product to the customers.
I agree with everything you said there. I'm really excited actually to see, as you know, technology is just going to play a bigger and bigger and bigger role in our industry. Are there any pitfalls or recommendations you have that people should be avoiding, or best practices, I guess, you recommend as people are growing? Any final tips in that area?
I like the childlikeness of asking many whys all the time. But why this? But why that? So I would say what we began with, which is be very attuned to where the company is going to grow and how they're going to grow, the whole merchandising and marketing angle, so that you are prepared and able to satisfy that growth from a supply chain point of view, whether it's inbound and sourcing to fulfillment and logistics. So being very attuned to company strategy, attuned to world events that are going to affect you, such as the crisis. So I didn't mention, but inbound was a problem during the crisis. So there were container backlogs at the Port of LA. We bypassed those by going to private carriers like Matson, which have their own terminals. So we did not have those inbound problems. We paid a little more, but we had the product. So being attuned to what's happening outside you that may affect you, attuned to your own strategies and preparing in advance, and making sure that the team that you're working with is clear on what their objectives are, that they have the adequate assets to be able to accomplish the objectives, that there are measurements that are agreed upon for those goals, and that we address anything that can leverage wins and mitigate issues before they become bigger by watching those measurables.
I love that you said the piece about the whys, to be a child and asking why. It made me reflect even on, I had a laundry list of 10,000 things I had to get done today. And there's a few that probably could have used a why. Why are we doing this? What is the purpose of this? Is this actually worth the time? And so I just love that reminder for all of us. Double check. Sometimes we're doing work just because everybody's doing it or because it's on the list, right? So
we do it all the time. We go back to the same issues that we've already asked 5 whys for. Now, why do we say we're at number 5? And I'll tell you, every time we think we're done innovating, something else comes up. And it's usually around things that we thought we solved or optimized. So that's the joy of it.
Absolutely. So love that. Okay, we have just a few minutes left, and I wanted to talk just a little bit about our relationship. We have such an incredible partnership with you at EasyPost Enterprise using MagicLogic.
Strategically, we knew that the volume of the order had to be optimized, the physical size of the order, which pointed to cubing logic. And we did our homework in terms of the offerings that were out there, and what we were looking for is the ability to handle a very complex order, 14, 15 units, quickly, because we have to wave product to our floor, and willingness to customize with us, such as you start with a kit box and you have e-com items some of the time, and now we have to optimize the size of the kit box and combine the two, and now give me the size of the kit box I should use. All those things, I wanted a partner that we felt would be willing to invest in the partnership and the customization, and we felt very comfortable with EasyPost solution, which is why we chose it, and we're very happy that we did, because that's a many, many millions of dollar savings per quarter in just the cartonization. And then the second piece is the ability to have a multi-carrier network and to be able to rate shop orders. So rate shopping is absolutely crucial to be able to do that, where you are connected with the carriers. There are agreements that we have, and it's every node of every carrier, not just our carriers, but they have multiple nodes, and each of those nodes is responding. So that is the other absolutely critical piece to this. Before we make any of our orders, we are cartonizing them virtually. So those orders are not made, they're in the computers, and we're cartonizing them by hitting your system with all the possible combinations of items. And you're coming back with a package size. And once we have that package size, now we know dimensions. We already know the weight because we know the weight of the box and the items. Now we go to the rate shopping portion. And all that before an order is even waved to the warehouse floor. And now we have the carrier and a tracking number. And now we make the order. So that's the sequence of events that our partnership entails. And it has been extremely productive. In fact, essential to FabFitFun success.
I love it. And we absolutely love working with you. You are such a forward-thinking company, so proactive, always ahead of the game, and just really an inspiration to me. So really happy to have you on today. Any final thoughts or insights you want to share with our listeners? And then I'd also love to know where people could connect with you if they're wanting to learn more about FabFitFun, or just, are you on LinkedIn? Can they follow you?
I am on LinkedIn, and my email is just julian.vanerlach, one word, at FabFitFun. Look forward to connecting with people. And what I do want to leave all of us with, and myself with, is that these are the kinds of partnerships that are absolutely essential in a corporation's life, that we each bring critical elements that are necessary for mutual success to each other. And I couldn't be happier with the partnership.
Couldn't say it any better myself. So thank you everyone for joining us today. As always, we look forward to seeing you next time. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.